Happy hour. That was Trevor Lawrence, who celebrated pretty well, guys. Celebrated at the Waffle House, as you see here, after a tremendous comeback against the Chargers.
Man of the people.
Yeah.
Man of the people.
Gotta love it.
Look, we've seen a lot of fantasy punishments happen at the Waffle House. You have to go there for 24 hours, eat a bunch of waffles, 1 per hour, that kind of stuff. So it's nice to see Waffle House getting some positive pub. It's not just for fantasy losers, it's also for winners like Trevor Lawrence. The only concern is, does his hair get in the syrup?
I don't know if eating,
Yeah, well, you got that's what you do. That's what,
I don't know. I don't know if eating that many waffles at Waffle House is a punishment. Not for a guy like me and Trevor Lawrence, who we both Georgia boys, so we love Waffle House. So lock us in.
Is that a Georgia thing?
Yes, Georgia Southern. I wish they had some up here, but they don't. But yeah, it's a Southern thing. They on every single corner. So
and they never close.
Never close.
Official request to the Waffle House Corporation to get us one in Stamford, Connecticut for my guy Lawrence here.
Man.
Come on now.
Where would you celebrate after a win like that?
Where would I celebrate after a win like that? I mean, I'm going to Universal Studios. I'm a company man. Let's be clear.
I thought you were going to say Hakkasan. But
I was kind of teeing him up for some kind of Vegas. Omnia.
Hakkasan would be pretty good. Omnia, we love Omnia. We love Hakkasan. I'm a big Chick-fil-A guy.
Okay, hey, that's another Southern
thing.
What?
And you mentioned Waffle House.
North.
You mentioned Waffle House. I do love me some Denny's.
Okay.
I do love me some Denny's. A little French slam. Listen, the hash browns. The hash browns is really, really good too. I mean, if it was breakfast time, if it's late at night, because I know Denny's will be open. If it's during the day, we're going to eat good in the neighborhood. We're obviously going to Applebee's. I'm a company man. Let's be clear. Like riblets for everyone. That's when I walk in and I'm like, for the entire room.
Riblets for everyone. I've never heard that in my life. Riblets for everyone.
Riblets on me.
Everybody's a party people following Matthew Berry in.
Well, you go to the bar and you're like, drinks on the house.
Yes.
Riblets on me.
You're just throwing riblets.
A request to the Applebee's Corporation. I want to do that. I want to do that between now and the next season. I want to go into an Applebee's and be like, riblets for everyone.
Yeah. Brandon Staley actually said that to everyone in the Chargers locker room after they lost, and no response.
No response at all.
Oh, goodness.
He's more worried about that. Anyway.
All right. Well, if you made it this far, I'm Connor Rogers alongside Matthew Berry, Jay Croucher, and of course Lawrence Jackson. Let's get into the AFC wildcard recaps here, guys. And we started obviously talking about Trevor Lawrence. Let's get into this game where, my goodness, a lot of people might have turned it off at halftime. It looked that bad to start. And your Swagwires, Matthew Berry, not Jay Croucher, sorry, Jay, put on a comeback.
Never in doubt.
Look at that.
Never in doubt.
Never in doubt. I mean, and I have witnesses to this. I didn't put this out on Twitter, but I did say this in the room. We were all watching. They'd given up 4 turnovers, I think. I think it was at 4 turnovers, and they were only down 17-0. And I just said, you know what? They're only down. No, seriously. They've given up 4 turnovers.
Could be worse.
And they're only down 17-0. Give me the Jags plus 15.5. And I literally made a bet right there. The Jags plus 15.5. Never in doubt, my Swaguars. But I was a little nervous. Like, I know this sounds insane to say, like, what 27-0 wasn't big enough. But they were up. They got 5 turnovers in the first half.
Yeah.
5 turnovers in the first half, and they turned it into less than 4 touchdowns. Yeah. Like, that's, and these were bad turnovers that were in Jacksonville territory. Yeah. So you sort of knew there was something off. We talked about this on Friday on Fantasy Football pregame prior to the weekend. I like the Jags to win straight up. I like them plus 2.5. So I always felt like they were the better team. And the fact that they weren't running away with it just made you feel like, hey, there's a chance. Yep. You don't expect that kind of comeback, but you felt like that it might get better.
Yep. And a lot of people reach out saying, Jay, you got really lucky with your Jags plus 2.5. I go the other way. We lost the turnover differential by 5 and we won outright. 2.5 is a great bet.
Yeah.
I feel like that's absolutely the right
opposite
side.
bettors were lucky it was even that close.
Yes.
That's right.
Yeah. Crazy game.
And lots to be made here about the Los Angeles Chargers and their head coach, Brandon Staley. I just want to point out that here at the Fantasy Football Happy Hour and our bar, just so you know, Brandon Staley drinks free. Look, this is a rule for any NFL head coach that watches. You give up 27-0 in the playoffs, seriously, all drinks on us. We feel for you, Brandon Staley. We will see if he remains the Chargers head coach. A lot of rumors swirling about that job prior to this game, about Sean Payton being interested. And that, it's a bad loss, guys. It's a bad loss.
Well, there's going to be an open table now that Sean McVay decided to go back.
I mean, right? And
so Brandon Staley could join the show. He could just sit in the back, drink all he wants.
If he wants to, would you like to be a bartender on a streaming internet show about fake football, Staley? Because that job is open.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, in another life, I used to work at a party hostel in Thailand, in Koh Phangan, and I've actually gotten word that Cliff Kingsbury and Brandon Staley have both applied for my old job, and it's going to be between one of those two for that role. I think Brandon Staley might have been drinking in the second half of that game. Some of those decisions, kicking it on 4th and 3 from the 22 to turn a 2-score game into a 2-score game, that was fantastic. Just a masterpiece all around from Brandon Staley.
You have Austin Eckler. You have one of the better running backs in the NFL. The Jaguars struggle against the run. Why would you not run? I mean, they called, I want to say off the top of my head, 8 runs in the second half. I think that was it. That was the number I heard. If I have it slightly off. But the fact is like, even if it's just 3 downs and you punt, you're killing clock. Yeah. And that adds up. They needed 4 scores. And they ultimately needed 5, right? But I mean, like, you're up 27, not just run.
Yeah.
Run the clock.
And what's interesting is Matthew, is they were up 27-0 and got away from the run. The Jaguars are down 27 and they're sticking with the run. And that helped them. It kept the Chargers defense honest, and on the biggest play of the game, that's when Travis Etienne had his best run of the game.
Well, I think that brings up a great point, Lawrence, in terms of Travis Etienne, as we just sort of push it forward, right? He's now had at least 20 touches in 3 of the last 5 games. Since week 6, he's had 6 different 100-yard rushing games. Travis Etienne, who coming into the season, we all said, look, we know about the explosiveness, but we don't think they don't want him to be a workhorse back. They want to use him as a passing down back, as a satellite back, 3rd down. Connor, that was his profile coming out of college.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And that has not been the case in the pros.
No, I mean, once they traded James Robinson, they really handed the keys to the car to Travis Etienne, and you see why. You're only increasing your odds of an explosive play if you give the guy the ball more, and obviously they're also finding creative ways. How about, like you said, Lawrence, that play call, the fact they got on the field, they didn't like what they saw, they called timeout, lined up a very unique formation where everybody thinks it's going right up the middle, and you get a guy that runs 4-3 to the outside for the biggest play of the game.
Huge. Yeah, I mean, and I loved Peterson after the game saying, well, it was simple. Like, if they were inside, you're going to go outside. If they're lined up outside, go up the middle. Like, pretty simple. Sometimes coaching gets overcomplicated.
A guy that's been there before. How about that helps?
Well, you know what? I legit said this. So on Football Night in America, we all make our game picks, right, at the end. And it was split between Chargers and Jaguars. And I took the Jaguars. And I literally said, you're supposed to, with our Lowe's home game picks, on the show, you're supposed to give sort of 1 or 2 lines about why you're picking that team, what you're sort of looking for, right, in the game. And I just said, in a close game, give me Doug Peterson over Brandon Staley. I'm taking the Jaguars. I literally said that on Football Night in America, and I feel like that 100% came true.
Yes. Best moment of the game for me was Joey Bosa slamming his helmet. Brandon Staley picking it up, giving it back to Joey Bosa. Joey Bosa slamming it again. I think that summed up Brandon Staley's tenure in LA pretty well, which is surely now over.
Bosa was upset because of the lack of the false start call, and I get that.
Yes.
But I mean, there were some bad no calls against the Jaguars.
100%.
The second interception was not on Lawrence. He literally gets grabbed around the waist. Asante Samuel grabs the kid around the waist and sort of moves him out of the way to intercept it. No call there. There was, they ended up scoring on the next play, but there was a pass interference in the end zone there for the 4th touchdown. I mean, the Jags had. I could do a whole rant on officiating. I know you guys know I never like to complain about the officials.
No, it's not really your thing, so you're going to keep it going here.
But no, it's...
but it was both ways, though.
Easily
both
ways. Easily both ways. Yeah. They've got to fix officiating in the offseason. Yep. That's got to be a primary consideration for the NFL. Yep.
Connor, any concerns about Trevor Lawrence the past 2 weeks, given that he was very bad against Tennessee, didn't play well at all. Now he comes back, he wins them the game, but did have 4 interceptions, and then also, no one's talking about this because of how the game ended, but also threw the game-losing pick on the last drive to Kyle Van Noy at the line of scrimmage and just went through Van Noy's hands. So, any concerns about Lawrence going into Kansas City?
I found it interesting in this first half of this game how slow he was playing. Obviously, just not seeing the field. Asante Samuel had a hat trick in this game that nobody will ever talk about ever again, which is an unbelievable accomplishment. He's a young quarterback that's playing slow, but I think what gives you confidence, Jay, is that he has a veteran coach that understands how to adjust in the second half to slow the game down for him. They have viable pass catchers. They get Evan Ingram going, Christian Kirk, Zay Jones, and an explosive running back. So, yeah, there's concern. Is this the ceiling for Jacksonville this season? We'll get there at the end of the show. It's pretty safe to say I think so. But the most important thing is he's a guy that never lost on a Saturday, by the way, going all the way back to high school.
Right? Incredible.
And a guy that can respond to adversity, which, in my opinion, is the most important thing for a young quarterback.
Right.
Look, think about where Trevor Lawrence was a year ago. People were like, is this guy a bust? Is this guy the next Jamarcus Russell? Because the Urban Meyer experience had been so unbelievably brutal. He comes into the pros as the most heralded quarterback prospect since Andrew Luck or Peyton Manning, right?
Easily, yes.
Like this guy is franchise quarterback, right? Can't miss.
Dangerous thing to say about a quarterback.
We're tanking for Trevor. All the teams are tanking for Trevor, right? And so then he's a disaster. The entire Jaguars organization is a disaster. And so they get rid of Urban Meyer. And in the offseason, they get a lot of criticism. The Jaguars front office gets a lot of criticism. Why are you signing Christian Kirk for so much money? What, really, Zay Jones? Evan Ingram, he can't stay healthy. What about Brandon Sheriff? That's a lot of money for an offensive lineman who has also had injury issues in his career. They spent a lot of money in this offseason. And they went out and they get Doug Peterson, who was, as a coaching candidate, I think, a little cold. He'd been he'd had a poor exit from Philadelphia. It had gone south there. He'd been fired. He'd been out of football for a year. And credit the Jaguars because every single one of those moves works out. Christian Kirk no longer looks overpaid, especially when you saw all the other crazy wide receiver contracts that came up. Zay Jones has been nothing short of fantastic. Evan Ingram in this game, 7 for 93 and a touchdown. He's been terrific down the stretch. Kirk 8 for 78 and a touchdown in this game. Etienne is, give credit that was an Urban Meyer pick, but still, Doug Peterson, former NFL quarterback himself, former Andy Reid disciple, former Super Bowl winning head coach, Peterson's done an unbelievable job. He won't win Coach of the Year, but he deserves to be in the conversation.
Yep, Jags are 2 wins from the Super Bowl. It's unbelievable just to say it out loud. They're 2 wins from the Super Bowl.
When you think about where this franchise was a year ago, they are the definition of playing with house money right now.
Yep.
It's crazy to say, guys. You could make an argument Evan Ingram was the best one-year flyer deal in the NFL.
This is his best year of his career, and look at it. It done worked out for the Giants and the Jags and Evan Ingram. So, they both just needed to part ways and get a career year out of Evan Ingram.
Wait a minute, Lawrence. Is that your analysis of we're going to get to the Giants in a second, but I just want to be clear, is that the reasons for their success this year is that they got rid of
100%. Yeah. They just had to.
They ball, shame all. It was just about getting rid of Evan Ingram.
Some folks just got to break up, man. All good things must come to an end, although I don't know how much good was there, when Evan Ingram was with the Giants, but the Giants are in the division around, as is Evan Ingram. There you go.
Everyone's happy.
Moving along to our second AFC game, a surprise here, guys. This was one, Bills Miami.
It will be the last thing on this game. Sorry, before we move on, I was just going to say the really interesting game, and we're going to have all week. We're going to do a show tomorrow, and we're going to do a show Thursday. So we'll talk about the Jaguars-Chiefs game coming up. But it is, to your point about Trevor Lawrence being a bit inconsistent, sky's the limit for Lawrence, who I think will be a top 12 fantasy quarterback next year. But you do feel you're a little nervous. Playing at Arrowhead is one of the toughest. It's one of those cliches that's true, right? Playing at Arrowhead, really tough. And anytime you give Andy Reid 2 weeks, like his record off of a bye is ridiculous.
Yes. I think the Chiefs are going to win that game.
Yeah.
Well, regardless of the result, we just going to be like, hey, Jazz.
Yes.
Great season.
They get blown out 40-7. We
playing with house money. The Swaguars. Some of us never left. Some of us wavered and went in and out of the bandwagon, but stayed on the Swaguars all season. Let's go Swaguars.
A good place to be. All right, moving on here to Bills Dolphins.
Jacksonville wear a thong?
I forgot about that. We're not going down that road once again. We're getting into the Bills here. Listen, this game was separated by 2 touchdowns on the spread. The Dolphins obnoxiously hang around, but you see, obviously, plenty of production from the Bills' offense, but their defense just could not put this Dolphins team away in a game that they sneak by, win 34 to 31. I think the story of this game, guys, besides the Bills' offensive numbers, is Josh Allen's 3 turnovers, in my opinion, which has been a bit of a theme this season.
Credit to the Dolphins defense. They came to play.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it was like, hey, you're on the road, you got Skylar Thompson, whatever, and here's the Bills, and they're explosive, and Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, and the Dolphins defense was like, we don't care. 2 interceptions plus the strip sack fumble that they also returned for a touchdown. They kept the Dolphins in this game, and Jay, as much as you mentioned, hey, a little nervous about Trevor Lawrence because he's looked a little sloppy down the stretch, I could argue the same for the Bills' offense, not just in this game, but down the stretch, teams that they should be blowing out, they're not.
Yep, no, 100%. And this just isn't going to go away. This is part of Josh Allen's game. You just have to live with it. He's still a top 4 quarterback in the NFL, but yeah, he throws the 2 picks. I think one was his fault, the other one probably not his fault off the chest of Cole Beasley. But the bigger thing is he's fumbled 3 times, including taking a sack that he just absolutely could not take for the fumble 6. And look, I mean, the Dolphins, they got within 3 points. It was close late. At the same time, like the Bills, they should have blown them out in this game. And the Dolphins had a lot of plays go their way, but a lot of that is on Josh Allen.
Including the postseason, no quarterback in the NFL has turned the ball over more than Josh Allen this year. I mean, that is concerning when now you got to play Cincinnati, and if you manage to get through Cincinnati, you're probably playing Kansas City. Like that, I mean, if I'm a Bills fan, I'm happy. I'm okay, fine. Survive in advance, but you have to be nervous about this because, to your point, like the Dolphins had no business being in this game, and honestly, if it wasn't
I know where you're going with it.
If it wasn't for the fact that honestly, Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle had some bad drops in the first half, and the insane delay of game stuff that happened in the second half,
they could not get to the line of scrimmage.
They could not get to the line of scrimmage and call a play, but like. There's a scenario in which, with better, more efficient play calling or better receiving from Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, the Dolphins win this game. Skylar Thompson, look, he has 1 or 2 picks that obviously he would have liked to have back, but I mean, the Bills are lucky to have won that game. There's Tua plays that game. I think the Dolphins win that game.
Yep. The whole game was the 3rd and 19 play where the Dolphins backed up late and then they called a deep pass for Skylar Thompson. He throws the pick. And that's your game right there, really.
Mike McDaniel has done so many great things this year. That call, take the ball out of the young quarterback's hands. He's a 7th-round pick. You should not have him dropping back and looking down the field in that situation. You're backed up. It's 3rd and 19. They give the gimme pick.
Hang on, though. But before we even get to the 3rd and 19, again, like I know I harp on the refs all the time, but the fact is like, think about this. The play before 3rd and 19 was he gets rid of the ball, and it's like one of these things where it's like he's coming down and he just gets rid of the ball, and initially the call on the field is incomplete pass that he gets rid of it, and so now you're looking at 3rd and 10.
Yep.
And then replay, they call down and they go, oh, actually, no, his knee barely hit. It's 3rd and 19. Maybe not. I don't know. I mean, it was pretty close. It was kind of a bang-bang play. But it seems super random when they decide to call down from New York and say, hey, we looked at this, change the play. There are times where you're like, wait, how is that not pass interference? How is that not, wait, we're watching the replay and we're like, that's a completely missed call. And you hear the announcers on TV, whether it was Tony Dungy in the game against the Jaguars where anyway, the announcer's like, that's pass interference, or that's a hold, or that's, he's down by contact, whatever. And it just feels really random as to when they decide to call down and when they don't, right? Yeah. And so my point is if they don't call down, chances are the Bills aren't challenging that because it's really a bang-bang play, and it's still 3rd and 10 in their own. So that makes a difference, right? 3rd and 19 versus 3rd and 10 is a big difference.
Yep.
Like maybe they call a different play, right?
Yeah.
So just I feel bad for the Dolphins. You know what I mean? Like
they with Skylar Thompson at quarterback.
You want the game to be decided on the field, not by the Zebras.
He played well enough. You know what I'm saying? You weren't expecting him to be Tua. He's not that. On that 3rd and 19, right, which was interesting. Their next drive, right, they run a play that they should have ran on that 3rd and 19, gets the snap, and he throws to Jalen Waddle, and guess how much he gains? 20 yards on the play, after catching it at the line of scrimmage. Like, run that on the 3rd and 19. Even if you don't get the 19, like, you're not having a turnover and just giving the Bills, who are the better team, a free score right there.
Yep. Yeah. I think it just goes to show us well that like from a betting perspective, like every single game in the NFL is losable. Doesn't matter how big a favorite you are. There was no one who could make any case for the Dolphins winning that game before the game. Bills closed 14-point favorites. Skylar Thompson was 18 for 45, and the Dolphins averaged 2.1 yards per carry on the ground, and they almost won the game. Like Skylar Thompson had Tyreek wide open on the 4th and 6 at the end.
Yes.
He just didn't see him. He makes the tough throw while he's going down. Like, the Bills' season very nearly ended.
But again, go to the first half where, he hits Jalen Waddle in stride and Waddle just drops it, right? And Tyreek also same thing, just dropped one. And there was a second drop by Waddle that, the guy made a good play on it, but those are plays that Waddle has. It's a catchable ball. There are times when Waddle has made that play and come down with it. So anyway, I am nervous about the Bills.
Yeah, what about their defense too? What about their defense?
I mean, Skylar, anyway.
Bills don't have any safeties left. Micah Hyde's done. Damar Hamlin's obviously not playing. Jordan Poyer's not right. He's been injured all season. And so I don't think it's going to be as much as a problem because we'll talk about it where Cincinnati don't have an offensive line anymore. But if they win that and then they're playing Patrick Mahomes with the level of that defense, they need to find something if they're going to make the Super Bowl.
They really do. Let's go ahead. What are you going to say?
I was going to say it also doesn't help when you're hurt on the back end and your best front seven player in Von Miller is out because that can kind of supplement the back end. So yeah, the injury bug has caught the Bills this year in a year where they are, I don't want to ever say Super Bowl or bust, but their aspirations are Super Bowl.
The last thing I'll say about the Dolphins, then let's move on to the Bills in terms of what we see them going forward. But I feel bad for Skylar Thompson, right? He's a guy that was compared to Brock Purdy quite a bit in college, right? And then now he's a 7th round rookie quarterback starting in a playoff game. Brock Purdy is, and we'll talk about him next segment, nothing short of amazing. He's been amazing this entire time. And Skylar Thompson is less so. Although I think that most people feel like, Skylar Thompson, again, Brock Purdy's been in that offense this whole time. Skylar Thompson, then it's Teddy Bridgewater. They're in and out with Skylar Thompson. He's not surrounded by the same offensive line or the same weapons. As good as Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle are, that's not McCaffrey and Kittle and Ayuk and Deebo Samuel,
and
right?
the defense.
Absolutely.
And the defense, right.
Yeah, I actually think Skylar Thompson has overachieved in terms of expectations. And I know a lot of Dolphins fans don't want to hear that. He's probably in the crosshairs for a lot of people.
Yeah.
But, this is a day 3 pick of quarterback that had no business. They paid Teddy Bridgewater $5 million this year to be a reliable backup to Tua. Unfortunately, both guys got hurt, and Skylar Thompson's been he had a great summer, and that built the trust to get him on the field this year in an emergency situation. But there's not a lot of Brock Purdy's in NFL history. That's the point.
No, there aren't. And the weird part is that Teddy Bridgewater was active in this game because to be a backup. And it's like, well, if he's healthy enough to be the backup, why is he not starting? Yeah. And I guess Mike McDaniel, the way he feels, and Mike Florio, Pro Football Talk, reported this, that Mike McDaniel's like, I want the guy that's there Wednesday and Thursday. Right. And because that Skylar Thompson was the guy that ran the first team offense Wednesday and Thursday, and they weren't sure if Bridgewater was going to be cleared in time, that was who they went. But for me, on the road at Buffalo, I don't care if Bridgewater hasn't played. You've got a veteran guy versus a 7th round rookie, a day 3 pick. Anyway, that's why Mike McDaniel's paid the big bucks. I am not to make those decisions. Ultimately, the pick at the end of the game was bad, but that's not why the Dolphins lost. You know what I mean? They had their opportunities. The play call, the delay of game stuff that's the insane part.
It was insane.
Probably cost them. Let's look over at the Bills' offense in this one before we move on, because we did have some big performances. Most notably, playoff Gabe Davis comes back. 6 catches, 113 yards, and a touchdown for Gabe.
3rd straight playoff game with over 100 receiving yards. 4th straight playoff game with receiving touchdowns. 3 straight playoff games, he's had at least 9 targets in each of the last 3. And to your point, again, the run game still hasn't gotten going. Whatever. Singletary 10 for 48. James Cook 12 for 39. Fine. But, you never felt like they got into a rhythm. It's always been a pass-first offense. It's going to be. And we've been talking all year long, can the Bills get a consistent secondary pass catcher to Stephon Diggs? And it's weird that it only happens in the playoffs. This is why we were all so hyped on Gabe Davis coming into the season, and then he disappointed fantasy-wise. But playoffs, and here comes Big Game Gabe.
We just had to wait till
Romo called him
fantasy.
Big Game Davis, and then somebody got in his ear and Big Game Gabe sounds a lot better, right?
Big Game.
He literally the first time go back and he called him Big Game Davis, and you're like,
Missed
You
that
know his
one.
first name's Gabe,
Yeah,
right?
swing
It's
and
like,
miss.
okay.
You just gotta wait till the fantasy playoffs to draft Gabe Davis in the first round. That's what you gotta do.
Apparently. But it was nice to see. Just again, made plays all over the field. It wasn't just touchdowns. Like made catches in traffic. Like Gabe Davis is a thing.
I think the thing as well with Davis and Diggs, who goes 7 for 114 and split second away from having a miraculous one-handed touchdown in the end zone, is that the Bills, in the second half, when they're leading and trying to run clock, their way of running clock is like throwing deep because they can't run the ball
They don't
consistently. So I was like, all right, Josh Allen's just going to throw it
Letting
deep.
it
We're just going to
rip.
throw it deep. There is no game script that works against these guys.
No, this is very true.
Their
Very true.
backfield guys kind of interesting. Devin Singletary significantly outsnaps James Cook, but James Cook ends up having 2 more carries. As we post right here, if you're watching on Peacock or YouTube, you can see 12 carries for Cook, 10 for Singletary.
Cook gets the touchdown as well. Look, I've said this. They might trust Singletary more, just especially as it's the playoffs and it gets colder weather, and you're worried about turnovers here. But to the eye test, to anyone, Cook's the better player. He's the more explosive player.
Yes.
He's the bigger play guy.
That's what it
And
comes.
just, and so I think for fantasy,
yeah.
that's who you want.
You would rather choose him.
Yes.
Yeah, it's just like when you see it, it's a 50-50 split. Like, obviously not in the snaps in this game, but as far as touches, it was 50-50. But like you said, at the end, they trusted Devin Singletary to run out the clock those last few plays. But, yeah, like Cook he's that dude. Like, he looks good.
He's going to be an interesting sleeper next year as well. But I'm sure they trust Singletary more in pass protection.
Yeah.
Again, it's a pass first offense. And to your point, hey, we got to grind this out. We can't. So let's go with Motor Singletary. Let's go with the veteran.
Our last AFC game was another surprising sweat as the Bengals survive against the Ravens. Literally came down to the last play, which was a tipped pass right out of the hands of James Prochet. The Bengals hold on 24-17 as you look right now at the Bengals fantasy leaders. No surprise to see Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow at the top. But guys, very quiet evening for everybody else not named Chase and Burrow.
Yeah, I think the thing here is just the Bengals' offensive line, mentioned before, it's just not viable. They're down 60% of their starters. Karras, Collins, and then Jonah Williams goes out.
best
And then
players.
all of a sudden, Joe Burrow's just got no time to throw. And it's a testament to Jamar Chase how he's diversified his game, where he can go 9 for 84 and a touchdown now on 12 targets, with his longest catch only being 19 yards. And it was just, Burrow has to get the ball out so quickly. They can't really run the ball that effectively, particularly with the line banged up. And, the total against Buffalo is 50.5. So they're going to have to figure something out to be able to throw deep and keep up with the Bills.
Yeah, I mean, my BetMGM breakdown on Football Night in America was, my main bet was Jamar Chase over 6.5 receptions. We have to, for that show, we talk about, we do the breakdown and everything like that. But in essence, basically what I said on that show was like, look, this is somebody who's had at least 7 receptions in 8 straight games. He's had at least 7 receptions in all 4 games in his career against the Ravens. And to your point, Baltimore doesn't give up a ton of passing yards. Like they've been really good. They've given up under 250 passing yards for the season per game. But they do give up a lot of receptions. They were top 5 in terms of most receptions allowed to opposing wide receivers. So to your point, right, like you don't want to call Jamar Chase a possession receiver because it just seems insane to be like, no, he's not Danny Amendola. But they've sort of, in a weird way, to your point.
Wow. Wasn't ready.
Right. But your point is that Jamar Chase, who exploded onto the scene as a rookie, getting these crazy long plays, right? And he's so fast and big that you're like, yeah, it is, right? You're like, he didn't have a reception. What'd you say, over 9 yards?
19. So he didn't have a 20-yard reception.
Didn't have a 20-yard reception, right? And it's just like, it's just a lot of it's like slant stuff. It's over the middle stuff. It's just, like wherever he is in his route, Joe Burrow is going to trust that Jamar Chase is going to win that route, and he does. And now they've expanded his route tree, and to your point, getting the ball out quickly. It's one of the reasons why it ended up not cashing. We didn't use the bet, but we were looking at Joe Mixon receiving yards. The line was actually pretty high. I want to say it was like 24.5 receiving yards. Again, because he's under so much pressure, he's been dumping it off to Mixon and Pirine, and Mixon ended up not getting there. But my point is like just that the line was there, that the line was almost 30 receiving yards for Joe Mixon should tell you something.
Quiet night for Mixon. 11 carries, under 40 yards. That's been the case 3 of his last 4 games, not getting to that 40-yard mark, and 3 catches for 17 yards. Lawrence, you have to be kind of concerned right now. The offensive line is obviously significantly banged up, and we've seen this trickle down to have an impact like this on Mixon on and off throughout the season.
Yeah, and it's not going to get any easier next week against the Bills. As we talked about earlier, the Dolphins averaged 2-point-something yards a carry against the Bills defense. So, and Jay mentioned the over-under of this game being 50. So this game, like, despite Joe Burrow getting sacked 4 times yesterday, like, it's going to be some throwing going on because neither team is coming into this game with they want to run the ball, but you just haven't been able to do that. So, Joe Mixon will just have to try to do it through the receiving game as well. 5+ receptions in 3 of his last 4 games.
The last thing I'll say here is, though, I'm actually less worried about the Bengals moving forward in terms of their offense because we know the weapons. We're not as concerned about the Bills' defense as we were the Ravens' defense. Like, the Ravens had a really good defense. Third time they played each other. All the cliches in terms of divisional matchup. They know each other well. And so I gave this out last night as well, that we thought the Ravens would cover. They did cover the 8.5 or even the 7.5, depending on where you got the line. But I do think the offense will be better. Mixon, T. Higgins, obviously Chase and Burr will be better against the Bills because they're going to have to be and because the matchup won't be nearly as bad. The Ravens, you just throw that out. It was Tyler Huntley.
As you see here, we have the divisional round schedule. Jacksonville, Kansas City, the Giants, Eagles, Bengals, Bills, and the winner of Bucks, Cowboys will take on the Niners. We're going to break. When we're back, we'll break down the NFC
after the Jaguars Chiefs, there's no game that matters. That's the only game that matters. Let's be clear. Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBC Sports and Rotoworld.com. Just want to thank you so much for watching what you just watched, or at least being too lazy to click out of it after the autoplay just kept it going. So either way, thank you so much for just letting it scroll by your screen. And now I'd like to ask you respectfully, please subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel for the latest NFL news, fantasy headlines from Rotoworld, and betting analysis from NBC Sports Edge.